that have juniors or seniors in high school on college and the recruiting process. Let's have coaches be responsible for passing those out. I also have a survey called Are You a Winning Parent? And this is one for mom and one for dad. Now you take this quiz and then you see what your score is and throw it in the garbage can. Don't share this with anybody. Okay? And I don't have my eyeglasses. Well, we don't have any light. And if you score high, I just want to read. You're doing everything in your power to seriously damage your child's self-esteem. Ruin their sports experience. Make them a candidate for long-term psychotherapy later in life. If you continue your ways, your child will most likely drop out of sports. If you force them to continue, chances are good they will struggle with serious performance problems. On the off chance that they do achieve success, they will not be able to appreciate what they've accomplished. Finally, your long-term relationship with them will be seriously jeopardized because of your lack of perspective and behaviors. So that's just a tip for high scorers. Okay? One for mom, one for dad. And then, that's what we've got. Okay, so let's talk about what coaches and parents want. As I said before, we're the #1 summer and winter Olympic sport. What is USA Swimming? We govern swimming in the USA, except there are subcultures like NC2A, high school, YMCA, summer league swimming, things like that. We have an Olympic team every 4 years that we supply to the U.S. Olympic Committee. Myself and 2 other coaches visit teams. I visit now, you're the 161st team. That's over 8 years, not this year. We have 340,000 competitive swimmers, over 3,000 teams averaging 95 swimmers. 13% increase following the Olympics. That's a big increase in youth sports. 73% of those swimmers swim longer than 2 years. 2 years is kind of a drop-off time for youth sport participation. We have 10,000 skilled trained coaches that take or have taken and passed CPR, first aid, safety training for swimming coaches, foundations of coaching, an annual background check, and an annual child protection course. We have 64,000 certified trained officials, usually about 4 or more per team. And they take an officiating course, they do an apprenticeship, they have a background check, and take the child protection course. How many of you are USA Swimming registered officials? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Give yourselves a big hand. What coaches and parents want? The one thing parents want is technical expertise for the coaches. And it's up to you to make sure that the coaches have some money to get the camps and clinics and programs where they're going to learn what's current. There's a lot of information on the internet that our coaches already get. Parents want coaches to be a good person, present themselves well, and use good language. Provide an enjoyable experience for the swimmer. Sometimes coaches are pushing kids so much that they might throw up. That might not be enjoyable. But the result of having been pushed can be pretty enjoyable. Swimming fast is fun. Parents want coaches to be a friend to their child. Sometimes when discipline's necessary, that's hard. But parents can use a coach as a great third person in child rearing. My wife and I have had 6 kids between us, 8 grandkids, 1 great-grandson, and it's not a bowl of cherries, as you know. And sometimes a coach can help you maneuver a child through issues. Parents want coaches to pay attention to details. I've met with the coaches for 2 hours, met with Marty for 4 hours, and I'm going to meet with the whole staff on Saturday morning at breakfast. And I'm impressed with the coaches and their commitment to your team and their knowledge of swimming. They can and do, I'm sure, pay attention to details. Parents want coaches to create achievable goals. If swimmers were permitted to create their own goals without help, they'd be off the charts. And it's important for coaches to help with that so that it stays in perspective. It's better to have little steps of improvement than something that can't be attained, because they can always readjust their goals. Parents want coaches to be dependable. Are they on time? Do you have gear to use? When I walked into I've known Marty since the 70s. When I walked into the pool, I looked around and I said, this is Keating right here. It's just filled with all kinds of motivational, educational, skill-oriented paraphernalia. Parents want coaches to prepare their child for life, not swimming. Swimming is a stop along the way. And parents want coaches to help their child be the best they can be. Not every swimmer can be an American record holder or a world record holder or make an Olympic team, but they can all be the best that they can be. What do coaches want from parents? The number one thing, nationwide, worldwide, is non-interference. Let the coaches coach. That's why you're paying the coach to coach. Trust the coach and be loyal to the coach. I once put in a water softener in the 60s. Anybody can put in a water softener, but I couldn't get the sweat joints to stop leaking, so I had to call a plumber. He came out and fixed it in about 15 minutes and said to me, "What do you do?" I said, "I coach swimming." He said, "Well, let's make a deal. If you promise not to try plumbing again, I promise I won't try coaching swimming." So if you're a brain surgeon, don't turn your practice over to Mr. Keating. He'll screw it up. But then, by the same token, support your coach, trust and be loyal to him. Support the program and the coach. And you've got a great history here thanks to Marty Keating. You've got a great program. And we talked today for half an hour on things that can be done to make it even better. Coaches want parents to separate the swim from the swimmer. A bad swim is not a bad person, it's a bad swim. They might have 40 or 50 swims in a season. And the swimmer needs to learn how to shrug their shoulders when they have a bad swim, and so does mom and dad. You just spent $300 sending them to a meet, and they didn't swim well. You have to learn to shrug your shoulders, because you'll get another chance to spend $300. maybe they'll get faster. Increase the swimmer's self-image. Coaches are working with kids, and motivation is a trial and error thing. And you can give a coach some tips on what triggers your child to respond and be a giving, hardworking young person. Parents need to give dietary assistance, and I just breezed through that. You can go to the usaswimming.org website and go to the parent section and pull up all kinds of neat things, including nutrition. And there's so many things out there now that you can get as resources. As I said to the swimmers, I didn't see yet many sport drink bottles. All they need is water. They don't need Gatorade. And drink, if they practice longer than an hour and a half, a quarter of the bottle every 30 minutes of practice. But you please remind them not to miss a swim to take a drink. Parents should follow acceptable lines of communication. I don't know what the policy is here. We haven't even talked about that. But follow what's right. I was with one team and the coach got 6 to 8 emails a day from one mom. That's overkill. It's so easy to hit delete and never give a response. I coached university men for 21 years. The swimmers couldn't sit with their parents. If the parent was talking to the child on the deck, I walk up to the child and say, who's going to escort your parents to the parent section, you or me? We didn't have many problems with parents. The kids should sit together as a team. Youth activities nowadays takes fundraising. And I don't know what it is here. I'm going to meet with the board after this, I think, and maybe that's something we'll talk about. But with all the trinkets and toys that Marty's got for training, I don't think he's hurting there. But fundraising is essential in youth activities nowadays. Coaches sometimes need administrative support. We've had some great help on this program from Bridget. Let's give Bridget a big hand. Anyway, parents have to pitch in and help out, especially if you run meets. Punctuality is important for your swimmer. There isn't anything more irritating than to have a practice in motion and have someone show up 10 minutes late, or 5 people show up 10 minutes late, and then all of a sudden you got to figure out how to fit them in. Have your child there on time. And if they're in a habit of forgetting something, put it at the door they're going to go through on the way to the car. I was at one pool and the boy said, I can't swim today. I said, why? He said, my mom forgot my goggles. Well, put the goggles on the doorknob. Punctuality is important. I asked a coach in Saratoga, California, what the parents think of my talk? She said, Bob, it was great. 6 parents came up to me and said, sorry, we'll never be late again. So try to get them there on time. Attend a parent meeting and give yourselves a big, big hand because this is a great turnout. Well, some guys are slow. Coaches want philosophical cooperation with parents. Are they doing the right thing for your child? I visited a team in Newport, Rhode Island, and they had a lady on their board of directors that was 80 years old. Her boys stopped swimming 50 years ago, but she was a shaker and mover in Newport, and she was on their board. Make sure that you're always related to this team. Even though your kids may not be swimming, there might be things that you can do to help back. And then try to teach your child to respect themselves, the coaches, and their teammates. And sometimes in today's society, we get away from that. I do a talk, and I might do it tomorrow with this team. And I asked the kids to give me in 15 minutes the traits, values, and skills they're getting from being on this team. This is from Stars of Colorado, Missy Franklin's team. They came up with 75 in 15 minutes. I highlighted in red the ones that I thought were really important as a coach. I highlighted in blue the ones that my university swimmers who are retired multimillionaires at age 50, and they thought that were really important to them in developing them as a successful adult. And those are in blue. But there are a lot of words here. Some are a stretch, but that's what the Stars of Stars of Colorado came up with. You're trying to develop an independent child, and leading them by the hand all the time doesn't do that. You've got to release them at times. I read this last week. Why businesses should hire student athletes, former student athletes, because they're achievement oriented, they're resilient, they're strong communicators, they're team oriented, and they manage time well. And those things may not be evident in a 10 and under, but if they're in the sport long enough, they'll develop those kinds of skills. Now, there are a lot of things that go into advancing children to another level. It isn't just because Susie got moved or carpooling's important. There are a lot of things that go into it. The advancement philosophy of the team, the age of the child, whether they're early or late mature, the space that's available, a tryout evaluation, their ability in skills, fitness, and motivation, their level of maturity, their attendance record, their commitment to wanting to swim, meet performances, and the approval of the coach they're leaving and the coach they're joining. So those are some of the things that go into advancing children. And these are the important things based on some science for children to learn or be exposed to. In elementary school, they're in the romance stage of swimming or sport. And these are the things coaches are trying to do or teach. In middle school, they're in more of a precision developing stage. And these are the things that coaches are trying to develop. And then, as a university age person or high school, they're integrating all of this. And these are the things coaches are trying to do. A master coach is not an old guy that comes around when he's 75 years old and tells people how to coach, or how they might coach, or how great coaches coach. A master coach can be working with 8 and unders, or 10 and unders, or 11 and 12-year-olds. A master coach is somebody that has a passion for coaching. And in my short time here, I've seen that with several of your coaches. This is a maturational improvement for late matures, and that's a way for kids to advance. Some kids will advance and swim faster just because they got a year older, not because they learned more, but hopefully they will have learned more. Late matures have the best chance of making an Olympic team. Early matures are more likely to quit the sport when the late matures catching past them. And these are guidelines for age group training that we put together years ago with coaches from 40 countries from all over the world. And the part that's important is for moms and dads to understand, if you've got a 9 or 10-year-old and they're able to go 2,500 yards in a practice, 875 of that should be aerobic development, because the aerobic system develops until age 14, 15, or 16, depending on if it's a boy or a girl. But you set the clock when they're younger. The body's clock is set for aerobic capacity. Anaerobic or speed training is only 125 yards out of 2,500, and that's just to teach them how to race, because they don't have the physiology to develop a lactic acid system. And then technique work is 1,500 yards. 60% of what they do should be technique oriented. I talked about failure and correction and ignition and deep practice. This is a book that every parent should read, regardless of whether your child is in school or sport or music or anything else. The Talent Code. Here's another one. Talent is overrated. Mindset. Teach Like a Champion is a book you could give your coach. And then U.S. Swimming's got a new program called Growing Champions for Life, and you can get information on that at their website. And then this is the other book every coach should have. Marty has two, but he won't share them with the coaches. He keeps one at home and one in the bathroom. Pools don't build teams, coaches do. There's some great swimmers that have come out of 6-lane, 25-yard pools. And here are 5 questions parents can ask their advanced age group or senior swimmer after practice. Seven signs a young swimmer isn't eating enough. That doesn't seem to be much of our problem. A weight loss or weight gain, a lack of growth, concentration problems, chronic fatigue, frequent illness, trouble sleeping, and poor swimming performance. But there are other things more important than poor swimming performance. If your child needs help, do pulse counting before they get out of bed. Take pulse counts, and if it stays elevated from what it was 1 week to the next, maybe they're coming down with something. We mentioned this already. Here's a good book for swimming parents. You can get it from Swimming World magazine, Swimming for Parents. If you don't fail, you won't succeed. Your child needs to learn to fail. And you're preparing the child for the road, not the road for the child. And these are some cautions, according to Steele. Entitlement. A child is entitled to nothing. You'd be where you are today. You wouldn't be where you are today if everything was given to you. You've worked to get what you've got. And children have to learn that. You can't accept only being number one. Half of the doctors in America were in the lower half of their medical school class, but we put our lives in their hands. So being number one isn't the only thing. Have your child experience multiple activities and you create athleticism. Multiple activities creates athleticism. They'll go through the youth activity small and then come back to the sport they like or the activity they like, maybe not swimming. Embrace the process and praise them for the steps they're taking. Don't overprotect them. Let them experience failure. And then if there's any way to control the computer or the phone or the iPad or the iPod, that might help too. 60% of our college students have excessive egos, up from, I think, 30% 20 years ago, just because of the age that we're in and the things that we have available to us. And then be honest with your child. Don't try to pull their leg. These are the 10 commandments for swimming parents. then don't be afraid to say to a coach, I appreciate what you do with my child. There's a coach in California, and she got this thank you from a mom after every practice. She related it to me. I thought it was pretty neat. Teach your child how to handle stress, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, how to say no, don't be afraid to approach the drugs issue. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. So, now we'll talk a little bit about university swimming. There are 3 divisions in the NCAA. Division 1, which are big schools, that would be like Michigan. Division 2 schools would be like smaller state teaching schools. Give me one here.
Cal Bakersfield. Oh, you mean here?
Oh, Cal State Bakersfield is Division 1 now.
NYU.
NYU is Division 2. Okay, and then Division 3 are smaller private schools. In Division 1, there are 9 men's scholarships and 14 for women. That's over 4 years. That's not 9 a year. So now people have partial scholarships. In Division 2, that also includes divers. In Division 2, there's 8 for men, 14 for women. In Division 3, there are none. Division 3 schools regulate their own financial aid, but they don't have need aid based on needing a backstroker. At least they're not supposed to. We have a thing called Title IX, or gender equity. We've lost 50 men's and women's swimming teams, and it gets blamed on gender equity when really basketball and football coaches need to make more money. So they'll take away swimming. If you ever hear of a swimming team being dropped, like Syracuse? Like Syracuse, don't be afraid to send a letter and say you're a swimming parent to the athletic director and the president of a university. That counts. Senior year in high school, swimmers register with the clearinghouse, and they decide on eligibility for sports. The NCAA doesn't, the university doesn't, except in Division 3. They can be contacted prior to their senior year in high school, and the best thing to do is go on collegeswimming.com, and every university team in America has a website, and you can find out all kinds of information about that team. Their coach, their swimmers, their schedule, their records, their graduation rate, their number of scholarships. It's all there. A swimmer can have 5 paid visits, usually Friday afternoon till Sunday afternoon. 48 hours is the max. Make a list of questions and answers that you as a mom or dad need to know. And don't be afraid to address money, because coaches know how important that is. When it comes to recruiting, most of you are babes in the woods, and they're the pros. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And then have your swimmers, when they visit, look at the the freshmen, sophomores, and kids that they might be going to the university with, to know what's expected of them, because that's the legacy that needs to be left by freshmen, sophomores, and your swimmer going in as a freshman. And then make sure they have whatever majors your child might want. If your child starts in brain surgery and wants to switch to physical education, make sure they've got both. If they transfer to another school, they may have to lay out 1 year to become eligible. That depends on the university they're leaving. We have signing in November and April. The swimmers that are really good will sign in November usually. The ones that might improve at state high school meets and junior nationals or senior nationals, they might wait until April. And when coaches are recruiting, they have 3 files. These kids are really good, and we have to do everything we can do to get them because they'll impact our team. These kids are backups to the ones that we might lose. And then these kids could be walk-ons. In 21 years of coaching, I always had walk-ons come in and improve enough to get some kind of financial aid. So while they might not have $40,000 a year to start, or $40,000 over 4 years, or $160,000 over 4 years, they can work toward that by improving once they get to college. Another good directory is from the American Swimming Coaches Association, and you can get all kinds of information here about university teams. We mentioned this. These are parents from Cal Berkeley, swimmers, the collegiate championships is a glorified high school championship. The most important season, the Swim Fast, is the summer before their senior year, at the highest level they can, because coaches will be looking at results from all over with swimmers from all over the country at those big meets. This is from the Safe Sport program put on by U.S. Swimming to protect children in swimming activities. And here's the most important thing. Keep things in perspective. When I coached at Cal State University in Bakersfield, our swimming pool was right near the baseball diamonds, and I'd see young kids going to baseball practice, and Dad would be carrying the bat bag and the glove bag. Let your child take care of his gear. And keep your fork. Oops. Keep your fork. You're at a dinner party, and the hostess says, keep your fork. What's that mean? What?
Save it for the next course.
The what?
Save it for the next course.
No, well, it's the next course, but if they say at the end of the meal, save your fork, what's that mean?
We're done. Dessert.
Dessert is coming. Give him a big hand. He got it. Oh well, some people are coachable. This is a big hand. Okay. So give him a big hand. That's the way swimming is. The kids train all year or all season. They go to meets. They might not swim very fast, but then they get to a championship meet and they rest and they put on a Speedo and they psych up and you feed them spaghetti and they go really fast. And that's the dessert in a season. So save your fork. That's the end of the season. Thanks for hosting me and having such nice coaches for whom I can deal with. Now don't forget.
Back in here?
No, parents go and go home.
Cheers?
No. We're doing cheers.
Cheers.
Where would be best? Are they in the
I have
gym?
more room out there if you want to come down there.
I didn't.